Daily Detroit is brought to you by the community. Support our work at patreon.com/dailydetroit.
Creative communities, on one hand, offer spaces for connection, self-expression, and profound meaning-making, all awesome things. But on the other hand, particularly in scenes built around music and nightlife, they can become entwined with cultures of substance abuse, creating environments that are difficult, even dangerous, for those navigating addiction or seeking recovery. So how do you build support within those communities? How can the very tools of culture, the music, the art, the shared experience, become instruments of healing and connection for those who need it most? And can you create spaces that are genuinely welcoming, that meet people where they are without demanding they leave behind what shapes their identities? On your Daily Detroit for Wednesday, April 9th, 2025, my guests today are wrestling with these questions, not in theory, but through practice on the ground in Hamtramck, Michigan, a dense, diverse city within Metro Detroit, known for decades as a center of music and culture. Joining me are Chris Tate, the founder and director of Passenger Recovery and a longtime musician, and Joshua Lang, the station manager for their community radio station, WHCK, where they have built something unique. Passenger Recovery has started by supporting musicians trying to stay sober, but has grown into a broader community recovery organization that uses music and the arts as pathways to support. Their radio station is, in many ways, an audible extension of that mission. I'm Jer Stays. Join me as we talk all about it. To my right is Joshua Lang, the station manager for Passenger Recovery Radio. Welcome to Daily Detroit.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And then to my left, Chris Tate, the founder and director of Passenger Recovery. Welcome.
Hello. How are you, Jer?
Both of you have voices better for microphones than I've got. I'm jealous. 100%. Why don't we just start with the basics? What is Passenger Recovery for people who don't know? So, Chris?
Yeah, Passenger Recovery is we started as a nonprofit in 2016, helping touring musicians who are looking for support, trying to stay sober in the Midwest. We're based in Hamtramck. Hamtramck has the majority of dive bars, or had, and probably still has the majority of dive bars in the city. Places that don't lend themselves to a lot of, the ability to go get coffee or get to a meeting or any kind of support. So we started by just letting local promoters know that we'd pick people up and take them to support groups or to go do laundry or whatever to get them away from the gig, potentially toxic work environments as a music worker. And over the last 9 years, we have become accredited as an RCO, which is a recovery community organization. And so we've kind of shifted, whereas we used to help kind of musicians and roadies and music workers specifically, kind of pivoted to use music and the arts for recovery from substance use disorder, drugs, alcohol, etc., for the general community in Hamtramck. And so our programming includes 10 support groups a week, many different kinds: Buddhist, 12-step, CBT. We have a sex and love addiction group. We also have, creative writing once a month. We have guided music listening. We have painting. We have all different types of, kind of trying to bring recovery out into the light, shine a little bit of a light on it, and make it a little bit more enriching for people who are interested in music and the arts, which is kind of everybody, to the best of my knowledge.
How much need has there been for this program in the community? What kind of growth have you seen?
With the touring musician component of it, so that's my background. I've been a touring musician for 25 years. I've been with a band called Electric Six for almost 25 years. And
people may have heard of it.
Yeah, maybe. I've been very, very fortunate to be a part of that before and after my own sobriety. And when I got clean, which I'm comfortable using those words, I just noticed in the Midwest that it was really, really difficult to find help. And so my wife and I live behind the library in Hamtramck, and we just made it known that, hey, we'll pick people up. We have a studio in the house. People can use that as a clean green room or like a safe space or something that's not, attached to a bar. And, we got a lot of positive feedback from the people who came through. They kind of couldn't believe it existed, but it was difficult for us to promote it. Because there is a certain degree of anonymity, especially at that point, involved. It did help to get it out through local promoters, but since we have changed the scope and kind of tried to include the local community through the enrichment of music and the arts as a way to make a change in direction or a change in behavior. It's really taken off since we opened the doors. We average over 250 people a month coming through. And during the day, that's people, we offer free peer recovery coaching and peer support services. And that's state certified people who are with lived experience with substance use and addiction. And I'm one of those people. And so is Josh. And we help people, not just with like, here are a list of support groups that are happening in the area, but like, this is how you get connected to Medicaid. This is the food assistance you can reach in the community this week. It's community supports as much as it is actual recovery, because the goal is not just to attend groups forever, it's to improve quality of life. So that's what we do during the day. And then in the evenings and on the weekends, we have support groups. And then we also have like community engagement activities.
That sounds like a really big personal lift. It's really amazing that you're doing this work.
It's happened as organically as possible, because it has been a very long time. I mean, for 8 years, it was a volunteer only thing. And we got started by just letting promoters know that we were there to help. And we started doing advocacy events in the community. So like Narcan tables at gigs. And then we worked with the DCFC for a while, doing the same, like resources at their matches, which was really effective because everybody loves the DCFC and people have questions. And if you meet people where they're actually at in their lives, if they're out doing something they want to do anyways, whether it's a concert or a DCFC match, they might be more inclined to ask questions or talk about things that they're curious about.
Do you find when people first engage with what you're doing, is there hesitance, and how do you work at welcoming them, right? Because this is a big step for people. It's an important step for people.
Yeah. I was just talking to a friend about that earlier on the phone, how, with the best of intentions, a lot of what you get and what I kind of experienced was when I was trying to make a change was, maybe a slightly callous person on the other end of a phone line who is unintentionally, usually, I would like to think, producing barriers. And for the person who's interested in making a change, I think that any opportunity to back out, and I know this is how I was, if somebody is not welcoming to me, or if somebody is not interested in my recovery as much as I am, I'm going to look for ways to kind of back out the door. I did that for years. And so we tried to, and like I said, I mean, the powers that be do what they can, but we can also add to that. We can, so that we can direct people to those phone lines and those crisis lines and those helplines to get detox treatment or whatever, outpatient services. But we can also provide this community center that's warm and welcoming, that has art from local, regional, and national artists on the walls, that has guitars that were donated to us by Gibson, that has recovery libraries on one side of our big meeting room, but also information on pop culture. We have a huge library that's just like John Coltrane and Leonard Cohen and David Lynch. And so if it's one foot in things that appeal to people and the other foot in things that they might be interested in making a change in their own lives, we found it to be more effective.
It's my experience seeing people in my life go through a lot of things, is that having a sense of community is so important to it. Feeling like, because I've had friends who felt like they're going to lose everything. They feel like, well, my whole life is the way that I was doing things before. And so if I can have people and creativity and resources and all that stuff, that seems extremely powerful, at least to me as a layperson.
Yeah. And that's, we wanted it to be as much like a warm cultural musical arts center as much as a recovery center, so that people can instantly see things that they're interested in and or can relate to. Music is one of those things that's the great equalizer. Like, even if you're not a musician, you can talk about your favorite song or your favorite band. And if there's a connection there, it's very similar to recovery in the respect that there is a connection. We come from all different walks of our lives, but all different walks of life. Somewhere in there.
There are no grammar police here.
Okay.
This is a podcast.
All different walks of lives, your lives, my lives, whoever. We come from all different corners of the world, and music can connect us in the same way that recovery can, because we have, we find common ground in that.
So let's swing to the other side of the table and talk to Josh Lang, who is the station manager for passenger radio with the call sign WHCK.
WHCK.
Feels very reminiscent of Hamtramck. It feels very community radio. I kind of really love it.
Yeah, that's what we were going for. And, what Chris was talking about, this welcoming environment, I experienced it firsthand when I first walked into Passenger Recovery, the community center. I met Chris through a mutual friend and got to see the place about a week or two before it was open. And I walked in and I was like, "Oh, you made this place just for me? Thank you very much." It was perfect. I had never really connected something that I love, which is music and the arts, with something I needed to do, which was, stay sober and go on this path of recovery. I was when I got sober, I started doing a show on Ferndale Radio. Shout out to Ferndale Radio, especially Mike D. And
he's great.
He is.
Yeah, Ferndale Radio, if people don't know, it's a community radio station based out of the Rust Belt. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It is.
Very cool, low power. I remember getting it when I lived in the University District in Detroit. It made me very happy. I was like, all right, I feel so cool.
Yes, exactly. It's definitely a nice little secret to have in your pocket. So what I realized, especially after going to Passenger, that I realized that this show of mine was a vital part of my recovery. It gave me structure. It was a creative outlet, and it gave me purpose. And purpose is very important for anybody who is seeking long-term recovery. And after I noticed how it was checking so many more boxes than I thought it was at first, I thought, well, if this is doing me so much good, what could it do for other, music nerds like me in recovery? And I thought, if I could create a platform to make that happen, I might be able to do something good. And Passenger Recovery was the first and only place that I thought of doing it at. It just seemed like a natural extension of what they were already doing, using arts and music as a pathway to recovery. So it seemed like a perfect fit, and that's how it got started.
And as somebody who does arts and culture coverage, I think it's important to have a space. Like, it makes so much sense to me, and maybe I can share with the listeners a bit, but like, so much of the arts and culture space is powered by brands involved with alcohol, to be honest, and other things. And so it means that it's like a constant din with a lot of that. And I can see the power of having a place where you can chill and enjoy music and these things. And it's not like just around the corner. You know what I mean? Like, I was just going through a press release today for an event, 3 different alcohol sponsors, and that's just, I can only imagine, I don't know, just be able to not put those reminders there, those kind of things, and still enjoy the crafts that you love. That's a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it powers the business, it's the nature of the beast. The two go hand in hand, whether it's, alcohol consumption and rock and roll, or, any form of music. There is some form of that in the entertainment industry. And not everyone consumes alcohol the way I do, but I had to draw a line and say, this can't be part of my life anymore. And it was after I had lost a lot of things and had a lot of health issues. It took a while to redirect, and I spent a lot of time, and I mean, this is just me personally, but I spent a lot of time in places that weren't necessarily beneficial for my recovery. And if people know that at least this place is a neutral territory or a safe space or whatever anyone wants to call it, but it's also enriching, and it's something that people can connect to that goes beyond just like support group and self-help stuff. People can come there and just exist. They can grab coffee. They can do their own work we're open during the day and be surrounded by something that doesn't feel like bad science class lighting and kind of like, a church basement, which, I mean, that those methods have saved my life, but it doesn't have to be that way. And we can provide alternatives and try to make recovery a little bit more vibrant for people.
Isn't so much about dealing with things, though, regarding mental health and regarding ourselves, about meeting people where they're at. And for some people, that that lighting style in church basement really work, but for other people, it's a different vibe, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a whole culture in Hamtramck that has kind of been, neglected with the LGBTQ community in the respect that, the pride flag was banned on city properties two summers ago. And so a lot of people in our community are already experiencing bias. And so to ask them to go into a religious institution of any kind, I'm certainly not, pointing anybody out, but to ask somebody to consider recovery, but also that, you're already experiencing bias and you have to go into a place that doesn't share the same beliefs that you do. That's a difficult road, And so again, this is our best attempt to make everybody feel welcome in a bit of a tumultuous situation in Hamtramck at the moment, or at least for the last couple of years.
It feels like it happened very quickly, right? It just felt like, oh, this wasn't a thing, and then it was a thing. And it's been interesting to see. I have a lot of friends in Hamtramck. I live just over the freeway.
Okay.
In the North End neighborhood of Detroit. So I'm in Hamtramck all the time. There's so much going on in this city too. It's people forget it's population wise, the most physically dense city in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
It's the closest thing. People will joke about Corktown or whatever being like Brooklyn. If you want to talk about actual people per square mile, it's Hamtramck.
Right. And once upon a time, more bars per capita than anywhere else in the world.
Really?
Yeah, in the 50s and 60s, because there were so many speakeasies and blind pigs there.
This is why my aunts and uncles who were Slovak have all those stories.
Polish immigrant workers, for sure.
Yep.
They could set up shop, yep.
So passenger radio, if someone turns that on, what do you do on passenger radio for people who are unfamiliar?
Well, it is a very inclusive, eclectic, I would say adventurous mix of music. We have, as of this recording, we're not even 2 weeks old, and we have some amazing DJs already. So anything from like obscure 60s soul music to very mindful and healing classical music, any stripe of alternative rock you can think of, plenty of Arabic indie music, which some people don't even know exists. We're just trying to represent Hamtramck itself.
Polka and Ukrainian.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's definitely trying to push out there what you experience when you come to passenger recovery.
If somebody wants to tune into passenger radio, what do they do?
They go to our website, passengerradio.com, and click play and commence the adventure.
Commence the adventure.
So how did you make that happen? So, obviously that takes time, that takes resources. I assume there's like music licensing in this. Like there's some nuts and bolts to this, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of research and a lot of grant writing. And that was, I think, kind of interesting because some people just didn't understand what it was. Like, what do you mean? So this is a radio station, but it's a recovery center. How do the two mix? And then, you have to educate, which is fine.
Which is so funny to me because when I got sent this story to talk to the two of you, it was literally like an instant light bulb connection.
For most people who don't have a cursory experience with art, they're like, oh yes, of course, this makes complete sense. And we try to do as much as possible with what we have, So not everybody who is a DJ on passenger radio is in recovery. We have friends and allies as well.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. Because I was thinking in this conversation, guys, I was thinking about the number of listeners I have, and it's a lot of them who have made the choice not to drink booze. They just don't want to be part of it.
Right. Yeah. And I wanted to do that, have a mix of people, because I think that dissolves, some of the stigma. Especially when you're in early recovery, you kind of have been isolated and you kind of feel isolated as you're coming back out of your shell and struggling with, early recovery. And I know personally, I kept these two things separate, my regular work life and my recovery life. And to for somebody in recovery to be in an environment where they are rubbing elbows with people who are friends and allies, people who might not have the same problem as them, but completely, support them. I think that it can hopefully make them more comfortable in those situations outside of their recovery world.
I mean, people just want to fit in, right? Like they want to feel like they belong, and they want to feel like they can just be although this is a part of them and who they are, it is not all of that they are.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, it enhances the support system too. Absolutely. So with the community center, it took us a while to get on the map. The Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, shout out to them, because they're the ones that support us, and they're the reason we could get the doors open, the MDHHS. But we had to get creative with regards to the radio station, because those are two, like they support recovery, but they don't support this kind of arts and culture surrounding. And so, again, shout out to the Michigan Arts and Culture Council also, because they're the reason we opened the radio station as a natural extension of the community center.
Yes.
But also a big part of what Josh was talking about with, beyond cultural representation musically, but enhancing our community support system too. We offer information on, the Hamtramck Drug-Free Community Coalition and the events they have coming up. And, food assistance any given day or week. Like, this is where you can get this. This is where you can get this in the community. So that it's recovery, but again, it's also like just improved quality of life announcements over the airwaves.
That's awesome. If there are ways for individuals, let's say they're not needing to make decisions in their life, if they want to just help, what can people do? If they're out there and they're like, hey, I think this is really cool, I want to support it.
Yeah, I mean, you could show up. We are at 2697 Kniff. We are in the old St. Lad's Convent. For anybody who's a Hamtramck native or the surrounding areas, they know the St. Lad's Church.
I'm familiar with where it is. Yep.
2697 Kniff. Show up anytime Wednesday through Sunday, noon to 8 p.m., or you can email us at passengerrecovery@gmail.com. We're always looking for volunteers for Narcan tables and resource tables. We're going to have a presence at the Gaelic League for the Corktown Music Festival at the end of this month. We'll have Narcan, xylazine, fentanyl test strips, as well as recovery resources. For festival goers, we'll also be shuttling people between the venues.
Awesome. And one more time, so people don't forget, where can people listen?
PassengerRadio.com. And you can also, if you want to, check us out on the Live 365 app.
Awesome. Well, Chris Tate and Josh Lang, thank you so much for your time on Daily Detroit. I appreciate you both.
Thanks,
Thank
Chair.
you so much.